But TFSAs, RRSPs, RESPs, how are we using those for insurance, or how are we using them to benefit us when we're doing our mortgage or purchasing houses?
There's certain things called segregated funds for RRSPs, TFSAs, RESPs. 99% of people, if you're invested in a segregated fund, you shouldn't be. It's like, it's for 1% of Canada's population.
So I want to ask you, I know a lot of people, you probably have this question all the time, but TFSAs, RRSPs, RESPs, how are we using those for insurance, or how are we using them to benefit us when we're doing our mortgage or purchasing houses? Do you have any kind of tips for us?
Yeah, so RSPs, TFSAs, RESPs, the new FHSA, all those registered accounts.
What's an ESP?
The RESP is
RESP.
it's for if you have children, it's a way to save for their education, and then the government will give you a grant or some money in it as almost as an incentive to save more for your child's education. And there's a bit of tax sheltering that happens, and the taxes are taxed in your kid's name when the money's withdrawn, so very little taxes, but it's essentially just an account to help your kids save. So insurance has nothing to do with those accounts. Actually, you know what, it does. There's certain things called segregated funds for RSPs, TFSAs, RESPs. 99% of people, if you're invested in a segregated fund, you shouldn't be. It's like, it's for 1% of Canada's population. Like, I'm not going to go into it right now, but if you have segregated funds, you probably shouldn't. And if you do, ask someone, and then they'll walk you through whether you should have it or not. The only people who should have segregated funds, or their, their RSPs, their TFSAs, their RESPs invested in insurance, are like people who are very wealthy. They have large estate planning issues. They have a business that could go bankrupt. They're worried about liability. Like, I have clients who are engineers, like civil engineers, and they sign off on everything. And if they get in trouble, if a building falls, $30 million liability on them. Those are the kind of people who get segregated funds. Who else has that problem? No one else, right? But coming back to your question of, those accounts are more so for investing, and it's really to grow your wealth in the stock market and have some tax sheltering opportunities through the RSP and the TFSA and those kind of accounts. How to use them for a down payment? RSP obviously is a big one, the home buyer plan. You can pull 35 grand out, completely tax-free. The new FHSA is amazing. You get a tax deduction for putting money in, and then you pull that money out completely tax-free too. And in our lifetime, for like the next 5 years, it won't really be a big thing, but for people who are like in high school right now, the FHSA and the RSP are going to be huge for them, because you're talking about lifetime limits of $75,000 per borrower each. So it's like 35 in the RSP, 40 grand in the FHSA. That's 75 grand, and you think of a couple, that's 150 of their down payment that they were able to tax shelter and pull out tax free.
And that's a big amount. That's the hardest thing for a lot of my clients, like clients that I deal with, first-time home buyers, is how do we kind of pool our money together or get it? It's like, you should have started a long time ago, or we just got to accelerate your savings by increasing your wages and decreasing your expenses. And decreasing your taxes. It's funny. Your taxes, 100%. That's huge.
There's a hilarious meme that it's like, I should have bought a house in 2008 when I had a chance. Too bad I was in like grade 3. I was like, that's so accurate for so many of like the younger millennials. They're like, yeah, like you're telling me to save more, but I was in grade 10 when this happened. Like, when houses were 500 grand, I was, I still remember when houses and like detached houses in the Lower Mainland were like 500 grand. Too bad I was pretty young. So
that was not that long ago. That was only a few years ago. Even if we go down to Abbotsford or Chilliwack, it wasn't that high where it was just like kicked off completely. Right?
But nowadays, the down payments are like, let's talk about the clients I'm working with, the doctors, like the physicians, the dentists, the optometrists. Yes, they make high incomes, but number two, they have very high debts, student loans. Like, most of my clients have like 300 grand in student loans that they owe.
Does that affect how they qualify for loans?
Absolutely. So think about it. If you're debt servicing a mortgage, they're going to look at all your payments. Professional student line of credit, if it's racked up to, let's say, $250,000, interest only is like $1,000 a month. Factor that into your debt servicing. That's the equivalent to having a brand new Mercedes-Benz lease. And we all know that's a mortgage killer. Whereas these students are coming out with that debt right out of school, and that's just a professional student line of credit. They also have student loans on top of that. Mind you, there's a lot of special programs we have access to for doctors. Lenders understand that, and so we'll shop their mortgage around to find who's the most flexible with debt servicing. But even these doctors, yes, they're making $200-300 grand a year, obviously sometimes more. But even them, that down payment's the biggest hurdle. Half the files I work on are gifted down payments.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you help your clients also pay down their debt?
Yeah.
Do you help them shop the lowest rates? And
So we do insurance, investments, and mortgages, but really by trade, I'm a financial planner.
Right.
And so I'm giving advice on that entire situation of how do we pay down your debt? How do we do it in a tax efficient way? And then half the time we're weighing out, is it smarter for me to pay off my debt? Is it smarter for me to invest? Is it smarter for me to pay myself a high salary? Is it smarter for me to keep it all in my corporation?
Right.
These are just like 4 of the most basic questions I'm answering on a weekly basis. And it's unique
like
to every single person.
It's all money.
I had this really interesting conversation with a friend of mine where I realized, again, they're very intelligent. Doctors, anyone in the healthcare field, they have done something for a period of time and got really good at it.
Specialists are. Yeah.
But when I talk to them about finances, they know very little. And maybe you noticed that too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Validate
so
that.
Is it the school system that's broken, or is it just people don't take any interest in doing mathematics?
I think it's both. One, I'll say this, because all my clients come to me and they say the same thing and they feel ashamed about it for some reason. They're like, Ritesh, I know nothing about, investing or even, I don't even know the difference between a checking and savings account or that kind of stuff. Those are the questions that come up with me and they feel ashamed about it for some reason. I'm like, why? I don't know. I don't even know. I couldn't point out my kidneys on my body. I don't know where they are. I don't know if they're in the front of my body or the back. And they'll probably look at me like, are you stupid? How do you not know where your kidneys are? I don't even know what kidneys do. I'm pretty sure they like flush out urine or something. But again, they're a specialist in their field. I'm a specialist in my field. And on a broader level, that's why capitalism works.
Yeah.
Everyone is a specialist in their field, and we trade our time and dollars for your information and for your advice. And that's why the world works.
Right.
And so for anyone that does feel ashamed, I'm like, you shouldn't be. But with respect to the whole system, it's like, if you want to get financially literate, it's very easy to do that now. You go onto YouTube and you learn. Mind you, there's a lot of people with just bad info. And then sometimes you also have to be mindful of the jurisdiction. I can't tell you how many TikTok videos I get sent per week. And it's like talking about how you can put 3% down and there's no capital gains if you sell your house. And I'm like,
I get those.
I'm like,
Doesn't apply.
yeah, and I'm like, that video is correct.
Yeah.
But it's in the States.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh,
Always in the
specific
States.
city in the States. You're in
or
Texas.
yeah, I'll get clients like, hey, I got to open up a Roth IRA. And I'm like, no, it's called a TFSA in Canada. It's a Roth IRA in the States. And the rules are very different. So if you want to get financially literate, it's very possible to. But who has the time? Again, I could learn where my kidneys are. I could learn all about human anatomy. Do I have the time? No, I'd rather go to a doctor and get that stuff out.
Handle it.
And so that I could be a specialist in my field, they could be a specialist in their field, and the world keeps spinning,
What's the goal when these doctors are coming to you to invest in insurances or into savings accounts or mortgage accounts? What are you looking to do over the kind of the time period that you're setting them up with any deal?
The politically correct answer would be really just like, helping them build their financial plan and get a grasp of what should I be doing with my money that I'm earning a high income. And my answer is to just get loaded, to get as rich as you possibly can. Because I'll say this, a lot of my clients are like very often come from similar backgrounds like us, born and raised in Canada. Parents have come from somewhere else, whether that's, Asia or Europe or other places. Even if their parents grew up here, it's expensive to send your kid to medical school or dentistry school. And a lot of parents will help out. And that means tutoring and taking them here and doing that. And parents sacrifice a lot. So I'm like, it's kind of your duty to get really wealthy because, we'll be honest, most of the clients I have whose parents are Indian, their retirement plan is their son or daughter becoming a doctor. Or marrying a doctor. It's like, I'm sorry. So with a lot of my clients, this isn't something that I'm putting on them. A lot of the times they'll come to me and be like, you know what, Ritesh, yeah, I need to be financially secure, but I also need to make sure my mom is good or my dad is good. Because my mom and dad, worked blue collar jobs their whole life. They put me through school. They refinanced their house just to put me through school. So I want to make sure they can take, that's my situation.
Do you find that's changing with the next group? With the younger doctors that are coming in, that's no longer the case?
Yeah, like with a lot of the times with the younger doctors, their parents might be doctors themselves if they're young enough. It's like if you're the first doctor in your family, you're the savior. You're taking care of mom and dad. You're also putting your kids are going to be the first kids in private school. Whereas if you're not the first doctor in the family, you guys are set. Because mom and dad were doctors, now the kids are doctors, and then the kids' kids will be doctors. It's just,
Does that apply in Vancouver? Because the first son gets the house, so then they're financially set anyways.
Yeah, usually, right? It's like
Kind of a, yeah, it's a little bit of
and it's not just doctors, right? Like it's everyone.
Yeah,
to an obligation, in my opinion, it's like if you can become very wealthy, you should be. There's like this weird stigma that people feel like being wealthy is a bad thing these days. It's like,
I don't know why people it's a
your duty.
humble, it's a weird humble flex that people want to do, and
I don't think that exists in the brown community that much.
no, we want to show off.
Yeah, I think
We wanna show
I
off
think
all the
like I see that in like other communities. So like Western society, I see that. Money is the root of evil. But in the Indian community, I don't see that at all.
No,
I have like two thoughts on that.
competitive.
Yeah, well, it doesn't even need to be competitive. It's like money is not the root of all
they're
evil.
after it, yeah.
Okay, you got your leg broken and you got to go get it fixed,
Right.
and healthcare's free. Why? Because we pay 43% in taxes. Like,
yeah,
I don't start making money for myself till June. January to June, I pay CRA, and then June to December is mine.
When you start, yeah.
Right? It's like, and that's because, you know, so that we can have these beautiful roads and have a healthcare system. And
Yeah.
this strikes really close to me because I grew up in a situation where we're poor growing up. I grew up in a single parent household. My mom was on disability. Where did that disability money come from? Tax revenue. I'm all for paying taxes,
Right.
but I'm also never going to say money's the root of all evil. I think the most beautiful things come from money. Like I was lucky enough to not have to pay for my schooling because there's some rich guy in White Rock who runs a foundation who paid for my entire schooling.
Right.
that's fun.
Where did that come from? It comes from money. So I think it's your duty to make as much money as you can and then be charitable with it. Because as soon as you take care of yourself, you should do charity. And our tax code's actually set up to be very like to reward
They
charity.
want to reward and they want to be generous.
Half the time people are doing life insurance for charity, or they're donating their appreciated stocks to charities and getting the tax deduction.
So is there something that I can come to you on a monthly or yearly basis and say, Guthesh, how much can I give towards charity so I can get tax write-off on?
100%. I have clients who we're either doing
Is there
insurance
a set
policies.
number where I have to give it to you every single year, year over year, or can I put like some sort of plan together where I only want to give $5,000, I only give $25,000? What is the limit?
Yeah, you can do both. You can go down either road.
Yeah.
So I've had clients where they'll say, you know what, I just want to donate at a whim when I can and whatever amount that I can. And so that's when, you just come in and be like, all right, what do we want to donate? Do we want to donate cash? Do we want to donate property? Do we, whether that's art or real estate, or do we want to donate shares or stocks? And you choose.
Imagine the amount and the method is all dependent on
your tax situation and when is that tax bill going to hit you.
Right.
And then the other way of, I want a set payment every year, instead of donating on a lot of situations, instead of donating, I'm going to donate $500 a month to Khalsa Aid or whatever, let's call it a Canadian organization.
Yeah.
Right? Or most of the smartest clients, they'll actually end up buying a life insurance policy, put $500 a month towards that. But that $500 a month, by the time they die, is going to be worth 10 times what that $500 a month would have been without that. And now all of a sudden that $500 is a charitable tax credit, and that charity is going to receive that $1 million policy when you pass away completely tax-free.
It's just lump
the
sum.
only trade-off is they're going to receive it when you pass away, not up front.
Right.
But in a lot of ways, this is actually going to help the longevity of that, that charity in a lot of ways. Yeah.